I rise today to express my great concern that in a mere 9 days, the United States government is going to give up control of the internet. And this is one of those issues that I don't think many Americans know about. This is not on the front page above the fold of your paper. It's not splashed across your nightly news. You're not seeing it everywhere on the internet. So Americans aren't really aware of it 9 days before this transfer is about to take place. The internet, I would argue, is U.S. government property. And if the president is you-know-what bent on transferring its control, it should come to this House and the Senate, and we should vote. We should have hearings and a debate, and in the end, the American people should see how their senator and their House member votes on the transfer of the core functions of the internet. And they should have a say. They should be able to petition their elected representatives to say, I love the idea that you're going to transfer control to a global body that doesn't share our ideas. Or, my goodness, stop the transfer. And let's make no mistake, the internet was made in America. The internet was paid for by American taxpayers at its point of invention. And the internet has revolutionized the world, revolutionized the form in which we communicate. And not is it just great technology, but it embodies the American idea of freedom of speech. It's all open. And we have exported that freedom of speech idea to the rest of the world on the internet. And now, 9 days from now, we're at the cusp of transferring its control to a foreign body that doesn't share that same idea of freedom of speech. So we all know, listen, Russia doesn't share that idea. China doesn't share that idea. Iran doesn't share that idea. But you might say, my friends, Europe, they share that idea, don't they? Not necessarily. They don't. Because they have rules in the European Union that will delineate hate speech and offensive speech that has to be taken off the internet. Not an American idea. That's a European idea of free speech. But when you talk about offensive speech, offensive to who?
On a controversial plan that could affect how you log on to the web. The Obama administration considering a move that would have the U.S. give up oversight of the domain registry of the internet. It's currently controlled by the U.S. Commerce Department, but it could be handed over to an international agency. Former President Bill Clinton.
The United States has been by far the country most committed to keeping the internet free and open and uninterrupted. And a lot of these people who say they want multi-stakeholder control over domain names and internet access, what they really do is want the ability to shut down inconvenient exchanges within their own countries.
Basically, the United States that invented the internet, with or without the help of Al Gore. So why give it up? Why give it up to some international body? Hasn't the internet done just fine on its own?
I agree. Not only was it created by the United States, it was called ARPANET, developed by the Defense Department with U.S. tax dollars, and it should be in the hands of a representative democracy like the United States. Once we let it go, and ICANN, which now, I guess, hands out domain names, the plan was in place since 1998 to eventually cede power to some international body. We don't know what that body is, what it consists of. It's very vague about what the plans would be going forward, so it's a bad idea.
ICANN is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. Jim, I don't know that anybody in this country is really aware that all of this is going on. I mean, Bill Clinton's pretty fired up about it. But the mainstream media are not covering.
It speaks to the desire, though, of some in the elite, especially on the Democratic side, to sort of give power away from the United States and turn it over to the world in some sort of gesture of good faith to the global community.
Originally, President Obama promised that the Fed's handover of the antitrust-protected Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, or ICANN, would not involve the United Nations.
If we fall for, a bunch of okey-doke.
Time and time again, Congress has failed to pass draconian laws to control the Internet. The Communications Decency Act of 1996, the Intellectual Property Enforcement Act of 2007, the Cybersecurity Act, the Protect IP Act of 2011, and SOPA, to name a few, all failed miserably against the ironclad integrity of the First Amendment. The globalists, scurrying to their den of iniquity at Bilderberg, would hear none of it. Their very fortunes and lives depend on it. The public knows too much already. Control of the Internet had to be torn from the protection of the U.S. Constitution. Now, after the full weight of Edward Snowden's revelations opened a treasure trove, the United States, in pure Hegelian dialectic fashion, offered to cede control to a multi-stakeholder, i.e. lobbyist-dominated model.
It steals prosperity out of the future so that it can spend it today. The Treasury then holds a bond auction, and the world's largest banks show up and compete to buy part of our national debt.
That's right, the Internet will be in the hands of lobbyists, the very bottom feeders of the whims of globalism. How bad is it? In the intervening years, the United Nations and the European Union had jostled for control of the Internet. During a meeting in Dubai, the International Telecommunications Union, the telecom branch of the United Nations, demanded rules governing the Internet to be rewritten. Specifically, the international organization proposed Deep Packet Inspection Authority that would allow it to monitor and censor content on the Internet.
Welcome to the Bubble. The Bubble creates a virtual private network, and everything you view first passes through it. If it would offend or disgust, then the Bubble blocks it.
The Clean IT Project webpage explains the plan called for police to patrol Facebook and other social networks in search of extremist material and propaganda, in addition to allowing users to flag terrorist content and turn others into the police. In addition to censorship, the ICANN transfer will allow for a globalist taxation scheme, former Bush administration State Department senior advisor Christian Witten told the Daily Caller. If the UN gains control of what amounts to the directory and traffic signals of the Internet, it can impose whatever taxes it likes. It likely would start with a tax on registering domains and expand from there.
Transition that stewardship to the global community.
Fadi Chahadi has been the CEO at ICANN since 2012. After having negotiated the full-scale globalization of the Internet, Chahadi will be aptly rewarded by the New World Order, acting as a senior advisor at Abri Partners, a private equity firm that controls an already monopolized media. Also as a co-chair of the newly formed World Internet Conference in Wuzhen, China. And last but not least, a senior advisor to Klaus Schwab, founder and chairman of the World Economic Forum. Schwab attended Bilderberg in 2016. Now that ICANN has relinquished control of the medium, globalist institutions can move forward with plans to scrub the Internet of all content unacceptable to the global elite and their minions at the United Nations.